Welcome, everyone, to the Chicago Football Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Letizia. Follow me on Twitter at CFC Bears. Joined by my co-host, Luke O'Grady. Follow him on Twitter at Luke O'Grady. We were not able to go live last Sunday, unfortunately, after the Lions game because I had some other things I needed to take care of. So we have not life stuff. Sometimes life gets in the way. It's not all Bears fans. Bears 24/7.
Life gets in the way of football.
So we have not had a chance to talk about the Bears-Lions game yet. So we're going to do a little bit of that today. We're also going to preview the Falcons game as well. So we got a double podcast for you here instead of doing our normal two weekly podcasts, typical podcast. So Luke, as I mentioned, I was not able to watch the Lions game live.
We haven't even really talked about it. And
we have not talked about it
right after
at all. So we're going into this real cold. And usually when I can't watch a game live, it happens from time to time. I'll be on Twitter and I'll be watching it. But I made the decision that I wasn't going to do that. I was going to just completely shut down my phone, don't check my fantasy team, don't do anything, and then watch the game after that. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it through.
You never do.
I know. I was in Michigan too, so I was at a bar at one point and saw the score of the game, so it sucked. But I was like, okay, once I saw the score, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go on Twitter and check my fantasy teams and stuff. And I went on Twitter and before watching the game, and you would have thought that Justin Fields looked horrendous based on some of the responses I saw. It was kind of 50-50. Just kind of how Bears Twitter is now. He either played the greatest game ever or he looked like absolute horseshit. So I was like, okay, it's probably somewhere in the middle. Once I was actually able to watch the game, I thought he played extremely well. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, rule number one, stay off Twitter on Sundays. I'm very selective with my Twitter follows anyway, just because I don't really appreciate negativity. And like, it pretty much only takes one whack take for me to be like, I don't really need to be following this person. But there is like so much good info to be seen on Twitter that you need to be there. But like, especially on Sunday, you see so many like, oh, told you so's, and so many, oh, but I thought XXX was true. Like so many, gotcha. So like, I try and stay off. And I thought he played great.
That's smart.
Yeah,
I thought he played great too. I mean, he had the pick six, but that was it.
Terrible play.
It happens. A guy who's in the second year of the league. Besides that, he put. I mean, he's doing so much with so little around him.
Yeah,
that it's incredible to me that people still blame him.
That is it, man. He is literally playing cranked. Like we're almost like Bears fans are almost taking for granted that very rare are quarterbacks like consistently accounting for 4 touchdowns every week.
Right.
And it's been it's been like nothing for Justin, but like now people are like, oh, he's not throwing enough yards, or oh, it's like when the game is on the line, he's not able to do it, which I actually don't even know if I agree with, but we can get into that.
Yeah.
Like I liked the game. The pick was a horrible play, probably one of his worst plays of the year. But to be fair, I saw a really good quote from Trent Dilfer on the game, and he said, to some extent, at this point in the year, being that the season is over, the nail in the coffin in the season was this loss. Season's over,
right?
Which is now a shift. You're kind of shifting into tank mode, off-season mode. I'm seeing a lot of more Bears talk on the draft on Twitter and stuff. But anyway, Dilfer said, at this point in the season, there are no mistakes. There's only learnings. And Justin came off in the press conference and very matter-of-factly said, I will never do that again. And there's something about Justin Fields when he says it, I believe him. So it's like, dude, if it's going to happen against the Lions in a year where you kind of are thinking, okay, we're tooling up to make a run next year, you can't be that mad.
Exactly. And it's a guy who's literally putting the team on his back just to get first downs, and then he's also scoring 4 touchdowns a game. But he literally has to, on every play, has to put the team on his back.
He does.
To just move the ball. So it was a guy on that play who's just trying to do too much because he knows he has to do that in order to win. And so it was just an unfortunate play that's overshadowing the rest of his performance. Because anytime when I tweet something like, I don't understand how people are blaming Justin Fields for this, I had a bunch of people agree with me, and then everyone who disagreed with me said, but the interception, but the pick six.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's like, yes, but that's one bad play that's overshadowing 15, 20 good plays. So it's just, it's a little, and then you also have some of the national guys saying, the Bears need to be able to throw the ball to win. And that's true. Eventually, the Bears are going to have to drop back and throw the ball to win.
Yeah.
But saying they can't do that because of Justin Fields, I think is wrong. They can't do that because their offensive line sucks, and they can't do that because their wide receivers are getting better, but still kind of suck.
I would say it seems like those reactions are like coupled because like we've had the ball to win the game a couple of times this year and lost. Mm-hmm. I would say that and I think you would agree. I think that there's also been a video going around on Twitter about this, but most of those losses do have a funny little asterisk beside them. Mm-hmm. If Mooney doesn't double catch the ball in Washington, we win that game.
Yep.
If Marquette Smith doesn't get the ball ripped out of his arms, maybe we don't win that game, but that's a game still. And then
could have won that. Could have
100%. The Miami game. What happened? How did that game? Oh, the pass interference.
The two pass interference. There was. I know. I hate blaming the refs. I hate blaming the refs. But in that Dolphins game, there were a couple calls that just didn't go our way.
Yeah.
So, but they do go our way, and that's a completely different game.
I mean, even if you want to avoid the pass interference, he also had the equanimous drop on fourth.
Equanimous drop as well. Yeah,
so it's like, maybe so far Justin hasn't, but to say that he can't doesn't really seem to ring true with what we've seen.
It's also ignoring the fact that let's say he is struggling in that regard and can't do that this year. It's year 2 in a brand new offense. What you're saying is that because that hasn't happened yet, it means he's incapable of doing that. And I don't understand why Justin Fields, as a young quarterback, is not getting the same leeway that maybe other
especially considering do. Did you see the statistic? I forget which one of the national guys shared the stat, and it was awesome. About the just total snaps since high school.
No, I didn't see that, but I'm sure it's low.
Justin Fields' total starting game snaps since high school at the quarterback position is just over 1,000. Trevor Lawrence is at 2,400.
Yeah, more than double.
Like this guy, true pass snaps is still he's green. He's only started 20. He's only started 20 games in the NFL. This is where he is right now. Is how you would imagine someone ramping up just at the beginning of their second season.
Right. Exactly. I can't imagine anything going better than what the Bears are set up for right now. You have a young quarterback who's very inexperienced, as you just mentioned, who's playing like a top 10 quarterback right now. And this is what we've been waiting for our entire lives. And I don't understand. And people are just, I don't know, not willing to admit that he's showing growth. And even in the passing game, he's showing growth. I feel like people are focusing a lot on the rushing ability because it's eye-popping numbers and crazy plays. But as a passer, he's still getting better too.
Yeah.
And he's getting better each and every week.
Yeah. It's funny. It's almost like what we want to see from Justin Fields is the Ohio State Justin Fields.
Right.
Because what he's doing right now, he's never been that guy. He's never been part of this RPO run first offense. I think he had 350 rush yards his whole final season at Ohio State. He had that in the last 2 games. So it's we actually just want to go see him go back to being the passer that he was kind of drafted because of. It was almost like when you drafted him, it was this guy plays the game kind of more like Burrow, but has the ability to do the other stuff. And right now he's doing a lot of leaning on the other stuff. And it's probably because of what we talked about. We aren't really sure how much of a load he really has to carry because of the deficits of the people he's playing with. But we really just as far as what all the naysayers want to see, they just kind of want to see him get back to who he probably would identify more as.
Yeah. And I think, he's scrambling right now out of necessity, not because he's a scrambling quarterback.
Oh, he's so good at it too.
He's so good at it, though. I don't want him to stop. But he is more, if the type of quarterback he is, I think is more of what you saw at Ohio State. It's just the offense and the talent around him kind of necessitates him being more of a playmaker with his legs because guys can't get open and pass. So next year, I fully expect him to look more like the Ohio State guy and scramble less. Next year, that's what I expect. Right now, you play the way you got to play right now until you get more talent on the offense, and then you can be more of a pocket passer who can drop back and throw. But anytime they try and just drop back, straight back and throw in the fourth quarter, when teams know the Bears aren't running the ball, they know they're passing the ball, they do struggle. That is true, and that's something that the Bears have been knocked for, and it's not necessarily incorrect. It's true, but they struggle because they can't block. and they can't get open consistently. So that's where the struggles come from. It's not necessarily Justin Fields. Once they get a better offensive line, you get Chase Claypool up to speed, and Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet's coming on a little bit, and maybe you get one more offensive weapon out there next year, it's going to look completely different.
Yeah, it's looking different week to week. Like to some extent, every week it looked, at least in the last 5 weeks, it really looked like the game has started to slow down for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that the last 6 games we have, like, better start to look like, at least that, he like. I don't think the worries about his throws are overblown, just being that he's always been a good thrower of the ball, but he also hasn't thrown the ball as good as he should this year. So, we just really just do need to see him settle into that, like in these like final 6 or 7 games.
Yeah, I also saw another stat. I'm not sure if you saw this. It was, I think it was from PFF, but it was passing EPA and passing PFF grade, and take that with a grain of salt if you want, but passing EPA and passing PFF grade from a clean pocket this year. And he was he was in the upper right quadrant with Mahomes and Allen and all those other guys.
To see, yeah.
Because
that's how it's felt.
What?
It's felt that when like he gets that pocket and gets to like actually step up and go through his reads. Like the last couple of weeks, a lot of his best plays have been those. Oh, he had the time and went through all his reads, and he will. There was a couple of plays where very like obviously he went like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep, and PFF has done studies that the best indicator of future success from a quarterback is those stats from a clean pocket.
Yeah,
because it takes all external factors out of it. Sense. I mean, you're going to be pressured from time to time, but that usually does carry over from year to year, and it also is a barometer for future success at the quarterback position. So seeing that stat really made me feel really. I mean, I was already great with his passing already and everything, but it made me feel even better about that.
Yep, it's why I think, to be honest, the fact that we need to see this growth from Justin Fields, I think it's why we're seeing Riley Reif over someone like Borom. Because like I think with like the struggles you'll see from Braxton Jones and the struggles you'll see from Kyler Gordon or like Jaquan Brisker, who we can talk about, those are the kind of struggles where it's like, basically the same thing with Justin Fields. There's no mistakes right now. There's just learnings. If you're going to draft Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon in the second round, you got to let him make these mistakes now. Like we can really start to seriously evaluate them, especially in the DB position next year. But like with like the offensive line, I think it's so important that we get a clear picture of Justin, that they're not really willing to sacrifice reps to Riley Reif for Borom to get that practice, because they need to make sure that they can evaluate Justin.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they don't see Larry Borom as a future starter. If they did, they would be starting him over Riley Reif. But yeah, I think another part of that is they want to develop Justin Fields, and Reif gives them the best opportunity to do that now. They obviously don't see Riley Reif as a future starter. He signed a 1-year contract. He's older. Like, he's not part of the future plans, but he gives you the best chance. Justin Fields the best chance for right now, and that's why he's playing. And especially when you already have Braxton Jones on the other side, who they like and has shown flashes, it's tough to have 2 guys at the tackle position who are struggling. You can kind of get by with Braxton Jones missing a few blocks, but if Braxton Jones missing a few blocks and Larry Borum's missing a few blocks, then you run into issues. Then you run into some issues. So yeah, that makes sense and I think it goes to show that it just hammers home the point. I know there were some reports out there from like Ben Albright that the Bears weren't sold on Justin Fields, but that just hammers home the points that they are sold on Justin Fields, and they should be sold on Justin Fields.
I think something that's nice about the front office, the head coach, and like Eberflus and Poles, is they really like they do kind of let you know how they feel. And like, the first couple of weeks, like the first 6 or 7 weeks, they were pretty like outspoken that like, we do need to see a little more from Justin. And they wouldn't like openly praise him when they were kind of given the chance. They have been like really like complimentary the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. I mean, as they should be, but that's a good point, because I don't think that necessarily meant that they didn't think he could do this, what he's doing right now. It's just that they needed to see more, and we all needed to see more. And they weren't going to commit. They weren't going to commit to anything until they saw this, but they expected to see this. This is kind of what they expected, but they weren't going to say that until they actually saw it.
No, I think the reason they both took the job is because they believed he could do it, but they had to see it. Now they're seeing it.
Yeah. If you didn't, exactly. If you didn't believe in Justin Fields, you would have never taken this job. At least a little bit. I mean, if he would have come out this year and completely sucked or shit the bed,
Watched
then
it.
then okay, then they can move on from him. But you at least had to have some inkling that he was going. He had a future. He is the future franchise quarterback for the Bears before even taking the job. So I think that's pretty well known at this point. But other people on the team did play besides Justin Fields. As much as I love talking about Justin Fields, and we'll get into Justin Fields when we preview the Falcons. But I do think we should talk about other people as well. Some things I just noticed. Obviously, Velus Jones being inactive again for the second straight week. That's a bit of a bummer. Chase Claypool played even less in this game, I believe, than he did in the first week.
Could have been a game plan thing, but was weird.
Could have been a game plan thing, but as they're trying to get him up to speed, N'Keal Harry was also inactive.
I hated that.
So
it made sense. I had high hopes for him. I thought he was developing nicely within it. Like the reason he fits that offense is he had done better in that like outside role than ESB had done, and his blocking had looked good. And like he had a touchdown against that in that Pats game, and he had a couple nice grabs in the Cowboys game. So I mean, I guess, there's no doubt that Pringle is probably the better NFL receiver, but I didn't know if that meant that he wasn't going to be active.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears just have a roster crunch right now at the position. They have so many guys who are pretty interchangeable. I mean, there's not that big of a difference in my mind between Byron Pringle and N'Keal Harry and ESB and Dante Pettis. All four of those guys really are pretty interchangeable to me.
I'd like to see Pringle get going. I think I'm a Pringle believer.
I mean, he was signed. He was our one big free agent.
He was like kind of the big,
big. I mean, he didn't sign a huge contract, but is the biggest wide receiver contract that we gave out. So you kind of want to see more of him. I've never been a big
N'Keal Harry this week.
I've never been a big N'Keal Harry believer. I just didn't think he was any good, to be honest. So I don't have a problem with him being inactive, but I think it's pretty obvious that Dante Pettis and Equinemius St. Brown are average players at best, and they kind of are what they are.
Do you think we see Velus Jones active and like possibly in line for like running back stuff if David Montgomery's inactive? He did not participate again today.
Yeah, I don't think he's not gonna play running back. Who's
the other running back on the roster? We got Tress Nebner.
We got Tress Nebner and Darrington Evans.
Oh, right. Yeah, right.
So right. I'm assuming Evans is on the practice squad. I guess I could be wrong about that. But he's available if he's not on the practice squad. So you bring him up. I just feel like Velus Jones, the reports are that he struggled with the playbook. Now trying to move him to a different position, I don't see that happening. But Ebner and Montgomery are going to be the guys. I don't know if Velus Jones is going to be active this week. Probably, my guess would be no, just because they're. But
can't do that with
I do. I know. I mean, the writing's kind of on the wall with Velus Jones. Great players aren't inactive. Great players who are third round picks aren't inactive in their first year. That's just kind of the way it is. But I do think he still can have a role in the offense. It's just as a gadget guy, which is kind of what we thought to begin with. He was overdrafted. It is what it is. I do think he'll be active at some point during this year. There's either going to be an injury or in a few weeks, they're going to be like, we don't need Dante Pettis anymore. This season's over. Let's have Velus Jones get back there on punt returns. Let's get him more involved in the offense. But I don't know if it's going to be this week.
Him being inactive is it almost feels like remember how we went like with Justin Fields and with Kyler Gordon. It's like, there's no mistakes. There's just learnings. It's one of those things where it's like receiver kind of directly relates to how you can assess a quarterback. And it's like, if there's a chance that he's going to hurt the way that Justin performs, like you can't put him out there. And that might be why it's like we're seeing a straight, as opposed to just saying, if someone's going to get those reps and we're going to lose these games, it might as well be Dante Pettis or like it might as well be Velus Jones.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Every move they're making is with Justin Fields in mind. They're not caring if they missed on Velus Jones, they missed on Velus Jones. They're not going to let his lack of route running ability or his not knowing the playbook impact Justin Fields, which is the smart way to do it. But I would also, N'Keal Harry, as I mentioned, I'm not a huge fan of him, but I'm fine with if they want to make him active and put ESB or Dante Pettis on the bench. I'm fine with that, or Pringle, whoever it may be. I'm fine with that. I think we need to see more Chase Claypool this week, though.
I agree.
Week 3 now, we're starting. He should know. I mean, the playbook to a certain extent, at least be able to play 60% of the snaps, 70% of the snaps.
You don't have to make it too complicated for him, and not to mention Justin, like he said, is like willing to kind of make sure that he's getting in the right position before the snap. This is like that. This is a bit of a homecoming game for Justin, so he's gonna want to go out and sling it. I'd like to see Claypool be on the end of a couple of them.
Yeah, me too. And I want to see just one big play to Chase Claypool. I think would really make me feel great, because I know he had the pass interference penalty that he actually drew in the first game for like 40 yards, which was awesome. But besides that, hasn't made a huge impact as a receiver. But now we'll go into the third week being in the offense, working with Justin Fields. They're doing extra practice, extra work after practice that was reported. I think this is the game where we see him kind of play the 60-70% of snaps and get 4 or 5 receptions for a good chunk of yards, maybe a touchdown. But it is interesting to see how kind of their wide receiver breakdown or whatever you want to call it, rotation, I guess I should say, and how that's going to be kind of play out moving forward.
Who do you think wins? Atlanta, Bears?
I think the Bears are going to win for sure.
I think so too.
I think this is the game where kind of everything clicks, and the defense might give up 35 points a game or whatever it is, but the Falcons' offense isn't very good, and their defense is real bad. I actually have some stats here, as long as we're transitioning to that. So this is a game. I know we're talking about Justin Fields, and we think he's playing great, but I actually really need to see a lot of yards from Justin Fields through the air against this game, against the Falcons here, because look at these stats. So points allowed per game, the Falcons are 27th. Offensive yards allowed per game, Falcons are 31st. Yards per play, 30th. Total first downs allowed per game, 30th. Pass yards allowed per game, 32nd. They gave up 280 passing yards per game. Passing first downs allowed per game, 32nd. They gave up 14 passing first downs per every game. 22nd in pass TDs allowed, 30th in net passing yards per attempt allowed. Like, this is a bad secondary for the Falcons, and their pass rush isn't any better. Pressures per game, they're 30th. Sacks per game, they're 31st. Pressure efficiency, 31st. Sack efficiency, 26th. Like, this is a bad coverage team with a bad pass rush. I need to see some passing yards from the Bears offense in this game, and that should be the game plan, because they are 17th in rush yards allowed per game. So they're actually better against the run than they are the pass. The game plan should be to throw the ball. So that's kind of what I'm expecting. And now that Claypool is more in the offense with Mooney and Komet's coming on. Komet's had a couple of really good games in a row.
Pringle's second week now. The wide receiver room now is much better than it was 4 weeks ago. Much
absolutely
better.
We're getting to the point where we can hopefully stop saying the receivers can't get open, because Pringle as a third receiver, I look a lot better as Pringle as a number 2 receiver. I think Pringle's a pretty good third receiver with Claypool and Mooney out there, and then Komet kind of working the underneath stuff. I expect to see a lot of passing yards. I don't think there's any way I shouldn't say I don't think there's any way the Bears lose. The Bears could certainly lose, but I didn't
think there was any way we were going to lose to the Lions.
That too. So that's a very good point. But I do expect the Bears to win. Probably something, 30, 32.
Dude, how crazy is it that we're just tossing up 30 burgers every week? And that's a full expectation. And it's like, why wouldn't we?
Yeah. Like, if we come out and score 24 points against the Falcons, I'm going to be like, wow, what a disappointing offensive game. And that is something
you get that with
24
Nagy,
points.
like,
oh, yeah. Offense is rolling 24 points. Can you imagine?
Like, literally.
Yeah.
Only team in NFL history to score 30 points in 3 weeks straight and lose them all.
Hey, great tank wins.
I'm fully in tank mode. Like, I want to win every game 100%, but by Wednesday, I've convinced myself. I'm like, Will Anderson or Jalen Carter.
I mean, when the game's on, I'm rooting hard for the Bears to win.
Yeah, there's no chance that a guy in the other jersey won't want to score more points.
Literally 5 minutes after the game's over, I'm like, all right, that's a draft pick. It does not take me long to transition.
Also, the Lions, now we're ahead. We get the tiebreak against a rival.
Yeah, Lions might not get a good quarterback. I mean, same thing when I was watching the Packers game, or when I saw the Packers score after the Bears already lost. I was like, I kind of hope this. I know this is blasphemy, but I was like, I kind of hope the Packers win this game so they don't get a high draft pick and draft a quarterback. Like, I want them to be 8-8 or 8-9 for the next. for the next like 3-4 years.
Dude, it would be so unreal as if we got a classic Aaron Rodgers down the stretch, 6-game win streak, lose the NFC Championship game.
Or like losing the first round or something like that.
Oh,
That'd be
whatever hurts more.
Or not even make the playoffs. Like they could finish 8-9 and not make the playoffs. That'd be absolutely perfect. But back to the Bears. We got to talk about the Bears. We're not a Packers podcast as much as we love watching them lose.
Yeah, I will say the Packers game is the one game on the calendar I got circled the rest of the year.
Yeah, that one I want to win.
Aaron
That's
Rodgers
at home
coming to town,
too, right? Yeah, it's at home.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Is it ever?
That'll be a good one.
That'll be an important one.
Yeah. Defensively, I know I hate talking about the Bears defense because it's awful.
It is bad, isn't it?
I would like to see a little bit.
Jalen Johnson had a really bad game, man. Damn.
Jalen Johnson had a bad game. Kyler Gordon had a bad game. I think Jalen Johnson's a little banged up still.
Yeah, he said he feels a lot better this week than he did last week.
So I'm giving Jalen Johnson a pass. I think Jalen Johnson's a good corner. I don't know if he's an elite lockdown corner, but I think he's a guy you want on your team.
I actually think the start of the year, man, the stuff he was doing on the outside was really good. It's funny, the Bears, they did a really good job of self-evaluating at their mini bye, but we've seen a lot more recently from him in the slot, and I don't feel like he's very comfortable in the slot. I feel like he likes to play outside, get his back to the sideline.
I actually haven't noticed that much because I haven't had as much time as I would hope during the week. So when I do watch like the All-22, I'm usually just focused on the offense.
There's a pretty considerable percentage uptick.
That's interesting. I gotta go back
the last two.
But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, he's much better. He's an outside corner. That's what I don't like him in the slot at all. Yeah. Use the boundary to his advantage. Need more pass rush. Dominic Robinson had a few decent pass rushes the other day, but he really hasn't done much since that very first week where you got like 2 sacks. So I want to see more from him. The defensive tackles. I actually thought Armon Watts and Justin Jones both played well. So it's funny that both those guys have like flashes of playing pretty well. Even Angelo Blackson too had a couple flashes too. But it seems like those our 2D tackles never have like a good rep on the same play.
Really?
It's like one of them gets blown up and the other one might be good, or they both get blown up, or one guy makes a play. But it's never that both guys are just solid in the right position, and it seems like it really happens.
They really do flash though. You get 2 or 3 really good plays a game from Armon and from
Justin Jones. Yeah.
Jones Armon Watts, man. Armon Watts, what a pickup he was.
Yeah, that was a good pickup. Solid depth piece to get. Anytime you get it at the waiver wire, get a solid depth piece like that. Who's going to be a rotational D lineman for a couple of years, hopefully. Cheap.
Agreed.
Great pickup.
He's got good energy. I like that player.
Never going to be a superstar, but just a really solid player. Another guy we got to talk about though, and the defense. The one bright spot on the defense, Jack Sanborn, played extremely well against the Lions. 2 sacks, double-digit tackles. Even though he played the week before too, looked pretty solid. He's a guy who I think they actually do have something there. Whether or not he's a Pro Bowler or if he's just a solid regular, I don't know yet. But there is something there with Sanborn. I think at the very least, he's a solid linebacker that you have on your team who can, start and play on special teams. And maybe even have a little bit more than that. But I think that's kind of the baseline right now. Is you got someone as an undrafted free agent who can contribute to your football team in 2 phases. So that's really nice to see. I feel like the Bears never get good undrafted free agents. Like we always hype up a lot of the Bears undrafted free agents and then they end up flaming out or never even making an impact. But it seems, and other teams always seem to find these guys. It seems like the Bears actually found a guy. So that's really nice to see.
Yeah.
So watching him going forward is going to be fun.
Yeah, I think he flashed. I think, he was a very, like you said, I think he's a mystery penalty away from having being probably the rookie of the week.
Yeah.
Moment didn't look too big for him. I think he's kind of cut from the mold that Bears fans just love to see at their middle linebacker position. Like not at maybe exactly the fastest, but like kind of opposite to what we knew about Roquan, like willing to dig his head into those blocks and like set the edge or like force him back inside.
Mm-hmm. Yep, always in the right place at the right time. Might not make the flashy play,
but also may make the flashy play.
But sometimes does make the flashy play. But he's going to be where he needs to be, and I think that's it. For Eberflus, I think that's more important than anything. Because the Colts never really had a bunch of superstars on their team. They had some nice players and some Pro Bowlers, but never really superstars. They were a defense built around guys being in the right place at the right time. And I think that's that's why they were okay with letting Roquan go. I think everyone will admit that Roquan Smith's a better linebacker than Jack Sanborn. Even maybe not in this scheme,
yeah,
but as a football player, I think that's
one's a rookie. Let's just let time tells all.
That's fair.
He's also one of those players that absolutely just because every time he's played, he's flashed. When we put him in the preseason, people went, "Whoa, who's this kid?" And then we didn't see him for 2 months. The opportunity, the Red Seas part. Now we get him in his first game. You go, he really gives you something for the rest of the year to start him. Even if he plays terrible every game, you at least let him. Like we said, it's either they're not mistakes right now. They're just learnings.
Yep, it's a learning opportunity for him and everyone on this team. So yeah, it's just good to have someone at that position who we can kind of look forward to for next year. Because with Roquan, there was always a possibility of him leaving even before the trade. So he could have played the rest of the year and been gone next year. And then you have just complete question marks going into next season at the linebacker position. Yeah. Now you at least will have an answer to what Jack Sanborn is by the end of the year, at least.
Young Jack Sanborn.
So, if you don't, because it was looking like linebacker was a huge need, you're going to have to sign a free agent or use a pretty high draft pick on one. It's possible they don't need to do that anymore, so that would be great. And then they could use that money.
It's going to be an off season of the trenches.
Yep, and exactly. You can use the money and the draft picks on the trenches, which is more valuable positions.
There are a couple of real. You know what? Maybe we should just not talk about it. We should do a draft thing. We'll do a draft thing another time.
I am so excited for the draft. The reason I even started CFC is because I wanted to talk about the NFL draft. So when the offseason comes around, I'm so deep into the NFL draft. Like I've watched so many prospects already.
We'll save all this.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts already. We'll save it for another draft podcast. Maybe we might even do one before this season's over. Do like a kind of who to watch for the bowl games or something like that.
For sure.
Something like that. So
reaction.
We'll get into that, and then we'll do free agency stuff too. But yeah, okay. So going back to the Falcons Bears, what's your score prediction?
I got Bears. Like I said, I actually do think that this feels like a game where it comes together. Although it kind of felt like that last week, and honestly, 2 touchdowns running, 2 touchdowns passing. You could argue it did come together, but this feels like another one of those. Maybe we only score 28. I'll go 28, and I honestly think that this is like on that come together thing. I think we kind of see a flash of the players that might be part of the long-term success next year. This weekend. So I think the defense does a good job, actually. Maybe I'm going to go back on that score. Maybe we even get a defensive touchdown. Give me 33-20.
I like the non-standard score because they usually.
I'm not going to go 35-21.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that a lot. I do think it's kind of like everything's going to come to fruition in this game, and I do think Justin Fields is going to have 250 plus passing yards in this game. Maybe not to get to 300 just because we're not going to throw the ball a ton, but he's going to get to 250. He's going to throw a couple touchdowns. He's going to rush for a touchdown probably. So yeah, I'd say 36 to 29, something weird like that.
Yep.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I think 30 seems real.
Yeah, it's like we said, it's expected. It's so crazy to even say those words.
Seeing all these lists where people got Justin Fields going into their top 10 quarterback power rankings, I'm almost just like, you know what? You guys had your chance to be nice to our quarterbacks. Take them off your little lists.
Yeah, no, put them back at 27.
We'll celebrate in silence over here.
Yeah, it is crazy to look back at some of the. Because we all have bad takes. Everyone has bad takes. So I've dunked on people before, but it's hard to dunk on people. But then sometimes you see like quarterback rankings from before the season started, and Justin Fields is like below 32. Like they ranked him as like the 36th
Josh
best
Rosen
quarterback
in there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, come on. Like he should have at least been in the top 25.
But to be fair, on the flip side of the script, to see people already throw him into their top 10 is like I'm sitting back here like, all right, it's been 3 games.
Yeah, the way he's played over the last 6 games
has slowed.
Top 10 quarterback.
Down. Yeah,
it's looked a lot down for him. So
it's a lot more like he's in charge of what's going on.
It does kind of feel like those people who put him in like the at 7 right now or something are trying to overcompensate from their shitty takes before. Like they don't want Bears fans dunking on them anymore, so they're going to rank him way too high so that they can say they've always liked him, kind of thing.
Literally. I do have the receipts. I said coming out that I didn't like. I was like Justin Fields. Actually, to be honest, I honestly thought that Zach Wilson was the best quarterback in the class. But I had Zach Wilson and Justin Fields, and then like a big gap, and then Trevor Lawrence. And I got the receipts.
I didn't watch Trevor Lawrence as much because I didn't think there was any chance of the Bears getting him. But I'm pretty sure I had Lawrence Fields. I don't know why I had a 3.
I didn't see what made Lawrence great. And not to mention, dude, he's not a very big fella. He doesn't look like he's like the same height as like Justin Herbert, and like 30 pounds lighter.
Yeah, he's real.
I don't know. I guess he hasn't had any injury like history in the past, but it just doesn't seem like it's a man's game.
He's been playing better too, though. So I think it's going to be over the next 10 years. It's going to be fun to watch Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence.
You know what's funny is I said this. I remember like vividly saying to myself a couple years ago, there was a playoff game between the Bills and the Patriots, and I was like, Mac Jones and Josh Allen. These guys are going to be playing playoff games against each other for a decade.
And that's what it looked like. I mean, Mac Jones, I don't know what happened to him because he looked legitimately good at times last year, but he did kind of fall apart down the stretch, and I think kind of teams are adjusting to him.
NFL, man, not for long. You got to keep doing it.
Exactly.
Nothing's given. Look at the Rams, bro. Best team in the league to the second lowest playoff chances in the league. 8 weeks in, 10 weeks in.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that's good for today. We're gonna Luke, we're gonna do a post game this weekend, correct?
Yep.
Okay, you're good to go. That we actually haven't talked about that, so I just wanted to make sure you were okay with that before we commit to it. I can actually do it this week. So that would be good. So we'll do the post-game show. We'll do that live. So make sure to tune in for that. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, all that crap. And I guess we'll talk to everyone on Sunday. Bear down, everyone.
Bear down.